I come from New York. I grew up here. I went to Princeton and I studied history, and I thought I might be a novelist or a lawyer, or I had no idea what. I worked mostly in culture, so I worked at Vanity Fair and I wrote about books or TV or film or theater. I really never thought about fashion. And then I got married and moved to London with my husband because we thought it'd be fun. One of the letters I sent was to a woman who was working at the Financial Times then, editing their How to Spend It section. And she saw my resume and she saw I had worked at Vogue, and she thought, oh, she must know about fashion. So she called me and said, will you write a story about boots? And I said, will you pay me? and that was my story, that was my fashion story. What was really interesting at the time was it was an opportunity for me to actually think about what it meant to do fashion in a newspaper, what it meant to do fashion in a newspaper that was largely, for the financial community and, executives. Fashion is an incredibly young business, even though we feel like it's been around forever. So watching it develop has been fascinating, and watching it send its tentacles out, into industries all over is also extraordinary because, in those 15 years, it's gone from essentially making clothes to making homewares, to buying hotels, to doing restaurants, to, effectively trying to control or touch at least every part of life that involves aesthetic judgments. It coincided with the kind of rise of fashion as a pop culture phenomenon, and the rise of the visual culture, and the rise of, pictures as communication devices in a really global way, not just in magazines, but on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Twitter, on YouTube. And so suddenly everyone started thinking about fashion, I think, in image and what they were saying through their image in a much more conscious way than they ever had before. To me, clothes are, entirely communication devices. I think Michelle Obama is wearing a flowery dress and she looks kind of nice and unthreatening and, accessible. Or, is she really like that and she's First Lady of the United States and incredibly powerful? Fashion it's a tool for people to use, and it should make your life better. It should help you. And as women, as men, anyone, we should just think of it that way. We should think, how does this work for me? How can I make it work better for me? You should never let it rule you. One of the really fascinating movements recently has been this move toward, what some people are calling unisex dressing, but the kind of commingling of menswear and women's wear, to the extent where often the same garment is just swapped between the sexes. And, I think that is a clear reflection of a lot of the kind of changing sexual identity politics that are going on right now, and the kind of fluidity of sexual identity. And, it's something fashion reacts to that because that's its job, is to kind of, hold a finger up to the wind and sort of say, which way is it blowing, and how can we give that form so that when people try to communicate these things about themselves, they can do it through their clothes. They can feel at home in what they're wearing. I think you wear what makes you comfortable, honestly. That if you feel like yourself and you aren't thinking about your clothes, to me, what you want to put something on in the morning that makes you feel confident and happy, and then you don't ever want to think about it again till the end of the day when you take it off. I never stopped working, but I certainly, when my kids were very small, I had a job which was less demanding. That said, it doesn't get any easier with the kids. Like, they don't get any less needy. It's like you're standing in the doorway and there's a flood coming and you're trying to block it, and there's like little trickles of water coming out between your fingers and toes. That's my life. It's hard and it's great, and I wouldn't want to give any of it up. But my mother once said to me when I don't know how old I was, she said, you can have it all, but you can't always have it all at the same time. And I think that's probably right. There are times in your life when you focus more on your family and times when you focus more on your job, and you just have to, sort of know what you're doing and be aware of the choices you're making.